My name is Chloe and I am 26 years old, living in the beautiful, rainy city of Vancouver, a place of towering mountains and endless gray skies that somehow still manage to feel magical. Most mornings started for me before the sun even thought about peeking over those majestic peaks. Around 4:30, the city still hushed and dark, only the distant rumble of the first buses breaking the silence as I bundled up in my warmest coat, scarf, and gloves, ready to face the crisp, damp air. I walked a familiar route each day, the smell of pine needles and wet pavement filling my lungs, past the sleeping storefronts to the cozy coffee shop where I worked as a barista. It was a charming place, always bustling with early risers, the scent of freshly ground beans a comforting embrace. And for a few hours, the rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine and the chatter of customers allowed me to forget, just for a little while, the heavy weight I carried. I loved making people smile with a perfectly crafted latte, or seeing the sparkle in their eyes as they took their first sip of a warm, comforting brew. It was a small joy in my otherwise challenging life. My dream wasn't grand, just to save enough to pursue a course in sustainable urban farming, to make Vancouver even greener, to contribute something tangible and hopeful to the world. But mostly, I dreamed of stability for my younger sister, Mia, who was still in university back home, 2 provinces away. I sent her money every month, a significant chunk of my meager earnings, because I believed in her bright mind, and her even brighter future, and I knew she deserved every chance to succeed without worrying about finances. My quiet struggle, the one that kept me up some nights staring at the ceiling of my tiny, drafty apartment, was the constant tightrope walk of making ends meet, of stretching every dollar until it screamed, often choosing to skip meals so that Mia wouldn't have to, and the fear that one day, my carefully constructed financial house of cards would simply collapse. That was my internal nemesis, the nagging doubt whispering in my ear that I wasn't enough, that I wasn't strong enough, that I wouldn't be able to keep us afloat forever. Then, the world shifted beneath my feet, not with a sudden earthquake, but with a quiet, terrifying phone call from Mia, her voice trembling, telling me she had been experiencing severe abdominal pain for weeks, culminating in a trip to the emergency room, where doctors discovered a complex, aggressive form of Crohn's disease. The news hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs and replacing it with a cold dread. As she explained the immediate need for a specialized treatment plan, including incredibly expensive biologics, medications designed to target specific parts of the immune system that were only partially covered by her basic student health insurance plan. The remaining cost, after what insurance would pay, was still astronomical, thousands of dollars a month, a sum that felt utterly impossible for me to conjure from thin air. I threw myself into work with a frantic energy I didn't know I possessed, picking up every extra shift available at the coffee shop, often working 16-hour days, my feet aching, my mind buzzing with caffeine and worry. I started walking to work instead of taking the bus, even in the relentless Vancouver rain, telling myself the exercise was good for me, but secretly counting the saved bus fare, adding it to the growing mental ledger of Mia's medical bills. I cut every personal expense, eating only instant noodles and whatever day-old pastries my boss would let me take home from the coffee shop, and my beloved dream of urban farming felt like a distant, cruel joke, something I could no longer even dare to think about. I applied for every grant and financial aid program I could find, spending hours hunched over my laptop after exhausting shifts, filling out complicated forms, writing desperate pleas, only to be met with polite rejection letters citing narrow eligibility criteria or long waiting lists, each one a fresh sting. I even tried selling some of my meager possessions online, a few cherished books, a guitar I'd barely learned to play, but the returns were barely a drop in the ocean of what was needed. The days blurred into weeks, marked only by the escalating medical bills that arrived in my inbox, each new statement a punch to the gut, a stark reminder of how far behind I was falling, how quickly Mia's condition could worsen without the proper care. My little sister's pain was my pain, her struggle became my struggle, and the fear of failing her gnawed at me constantly, making it hard to sleep, hard to breathe, hard to find any moment of peace. Then came the ultimate blow, the moment that truly broke me. After months of relentless work and sacrifice, I had somehow, miraculously, scraped together enough for the first 3 months of Mia's medication, feeling a fragile sliver of hope bloom in my chest, a small victory in a seemingly endless war. I had even managed to find a second job, bussing tables at a local restaurant a few evenings a week, adding precious extra dollars to the fund. I called Mia, my voice thick with exhaustion but also with a quiet pride, telling her the good news, assuring her that the next shipment of her medication was secured. But her voice on the other end of the line was small, filled with tears, as she told me that her doctor had just informed her that her body wasn't responding as well as they'd hoped to the initial dosage, and she would need to switch to a higher dose of the medication, almost doubling the cost, effective immediately. The weight of the world pressed down on me then, crushing me, stealing the last vestiges of my strength, and the fragile hope I had just nurtured evaporated into thin air, replaced by a suffocating despair. I walked home from the coffee shop that evening in a torrential downpour, the rain a cold, unrelenting torrent that mirrored the tears streaming down my face, blurring the already dim Vancouver streetlights. Every single fiber of my being wanted to give up, to curl into a ball and let the current sweep me away, to escape the unbearable burden of responsibility. I found myself at a bus stop I didn't even recognize, slumping onto the wet bench, my clothes soaked through, the cold seeping into my bones, feeling utterly defeated, my purse clutched tight to my chest as if it contained all my shattered dreams. The internal nemesis, that voice of doubt, wasn't whispering anymore. It was screaming, telling me I was a failure, that I wasn't enough, that I was destined to lose everything. I sat there, hunched and shivering, watching the rain create shimmering puddles on the asphalt, my mind a jumbled mess of fear and despair, feeling so utterly alone in the vast, indifferent city. I saw buses pass by, their glowing lights a blur, but I couldn't bring myself to move, couldn't summon the energy to get up and go anywhere, let alone face another day. The cold was unbearable, my teeth chattering, but it was nothing compared to the chill in my heart. I closed my eyes, wishing the world would just swallow me whole, wishing I could disappear. Then something happened, something so small, so unexpected, that it cracked through my wall of despair. I felt a slight shift on the bench beside me, a gentle nudge, and when I opened my eyes, there it was, a brightly colored umbrella, a cheerful yellow with little white daisies, left neatly folded on the seat next to me. It wasn't there before, I was sure of it, and there was no one else around, just the endless drumming of the rain. I looked up and down the street, straining my eyes through the downpour, but saw no one who could have left it. It was just there. A silent, anonymous act of kindness, a splash of vibrant color in my monochrome world of grief. It was just an umbrella, a simple object, but at that moment it felt like a lifeline, a tangible message that someone, somewhere cared, even if they didn't know my name or my story. The warmth of that thought, the sheer unexpectedness of it, started a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor within me, a spark in the darkness. It made me realize that even when the world felt cold and cruel, there was still goodness, still connection, still hope. That small, yellow umbrella became a symbol of resilience, a quiet push to keep going. I picked it up, its smooth handle cool against my palm, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a flicker of my own internal strength return. If a stranger could offer such a selfless act of comfort, perhaps I could find the courage to keep fighting too. I stood up slowly, feeling a renewed sense of purpose, and held the umbrella over my head, sheltering myself from the relentless rain. I knew I couldn't give up, not for Mia, not for myself. I remembered a conversation I had once overheard at the coffee shop about a charity dedicated to helping families with chronic illness, one I had dismissed as too hard to navigate before. It was a long shot, a huge leap of faith, but holding that umbrella, I decided to try, just one more time. That night, instead of wallowing, I bundled up in a warm blanket, made a mug of tea, and spent hours researching the charity, finding contact numbers and email addresses, meticulously outlining Mia's situation. I sent a detailed email, pouring my heart into it, attaching all the medical reports and financial statements I had, hoping against hope. The response came 2 days later, not a rejection, but a request for an interview. It was a rigorous process, many more forms, many more calls, but with each step, I felt the universe shifting, bending towards us. The yellow umbrella sat propped in the corner of my tiny apartment, a constant reminder of that turning point, a silent cheer on my journey. Finally, after weeks of anxious waiting, the news arrived. The charity had approved our application, agreeing to cover a significant portion of Mia's ongoing medication costs, enough to make her treatment sustainable, enough to breathe. My new normal wasn't a sudden burst of sunshine, but a gradual clearing of the clouds. Mia's condition stabilized, slowly but surely, her voice on the phone growing stronger, filled with hope again. I continued to work hard at the coffee shop, still saving for my urban farming dream, but now with a lightness in my step, a profound gratitude in my heart. The memory of that yellow umbrella never left me, and it fueled a deep desire to pay that kindness forward. I started volunteering once a week at a local community center, helping newcomers to Vancouver navigate the city, offering a friendly face and a helping hand, just as that stranger had done for me. I also started a small collection jar at the coffee shop, explaining Mia's story and the kindness I received, encouraging customers to donate loose change for families struggling with medical expenses, and the generosity I witnessed was truly heartwarming. One drizzly afternoon, about a year after that life-changing bus stop encounter, I was working my usual shift at the coffee shop, carefully crafting a latte, when a woman stepped up to the counter. She had kind eyes, a gentle smile, and was dressed in a simple, practical raincoat. As she ordered a chamomile tea, I noticed something small in her hand, something she was about to put down on the counter. It was a keychain, a miniature, brightly colored yellow umbrella with tiny white daisies. My heart gave a little jolt. I looked at her, then at the keychain, a silent connection forming, a warmth spreading through me. She met my gaze, a soft, knowing smile on her face, and simply said, "Sometimes a little shelter can make all the difference, can't it?" I smiled back, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached my eyes, and without a word, because some things don't need words, I poured her chamomile tea into her reusable mug, and then, before she could pay, I gently slid it across the counter towards her, saying, "On the house today." It just felt like a chamomile tea kind of day. She blinked, a surprised and touched expression on her face, then nodded slowly, her eyes shining with understanding, and walked away, leaving behind a profound sense of interconnectedness. It wasn't about the free tea. It was about the ripple, the enduring proof that a small act of kindness, a shared moment of humanity, truly does get paid forward, echoing far beyond its initial reach, proving that even in the darkest storms, a little bit of unexpected warmth can truly change everything.